Hey, hi, good evening or good afternoon. This is Brad Sweezy with Just Small Biz Marketing. And pretty much what our show is about is really helping educate small businesses about marketing so they can avoid throwing money away into advertising that doesn't work and put it into advertising and marketing that does work. So pretty much each week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a different marketing topic. I'm going to interview a local local small business owner, and then I'm going to, answer some questions from the audience. So if that's okay, hopefully you'll tune in. So the topic I want to talk about today is Small Business Saturday. So Thanksgiving is starting today on Thursday, and then there's Black Friday, and then on Saturday there's something called Small Business Saturday. And that's where people are supposed to show their support for small businesses by purchasing items from local businesses. As a marketing consultant to small businesses, I'm a big fan of them, of course, and I want to help my clients maximize their sales and profit. So why am I not a big fan of Small Business Saturday? Well, it comes to one thing, the timing of Small Business Saturday, which follows Black Friday. And why is this a problem? Last year during Thanksgiving, I watched my girlfriend and my mother go through 2 inches of circulars that came with the newspaper looking for Black Friday-related deals. Besides one circular for a local small business retail area, which didn't have any Black Friday deals, and a local camera store, there was nothing but big store deals being advertised. So they devoted most of their attention yesterday on identifying details for their deals for their loved ones, while today they focused on taking advantage of the good deals. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility they got about 80% of their shopping done on Black Friday. That leaves just 20% of their budget left for small business shopping on Saturday. So why can't it be the Saturday before Thanksgiving? If it would serve as a better opportunity for small businesses to get ahead of the bigger stores. And for those of you who say it's too early, let's face it, you start seeing Halloween candy out there right after Labor Day. Now, is the date going to change to Saturday before? I'm not going to hold my breath, okay, especially after doing the math. Sales during Black Friday in 2014 were almost $51 billion. So that same year, the estimated small business and local sales were about $14 billion on Small Business Saturday. So clearly, more credit card transactions happen outside of Small Business Saturday than any other time. Now, the other thing is, Small Business Saturday was started by American Express, and small business owners across the country know how expensive it is when somebody uses an American Express credit card. It's one of the highest fees that they're being charged. So small business owners work as hard as anyone I've had the privilege of working besides, including my fellow members of the armed forces. We know who you are. We're a group of people trying to fulfill an American dream that our military members have so diligently sacrificed to protect. The deck is often stacked against small business owners, but we want to do what we can to support them. So when you're thinking about what you're going to spend your money on in the next year, in this holiday period of time, reach out to your small business owners and reach out ahead of Black Friday. So when you're thinking about next year, because believe it or not, next year is going to come very quickly, what you want to do as a small business owner is get ahead of Black Friday and try to steal some of the deals away from the big box retailers. So that's pretty much, what I have to say about that. And now I'm going to introduce our first guest on this radio program, and it's Gary the Mad Hatter. Okay, now Gary Haas is the president of Mad Hatter Productions, LLC. He's a longtime resident of the Space Coast and is always trying and striving to explore and create new social opportunities. Gary noticed there was a need for what he calls a funtrepreneur, a village idiot, so to speak, to organize social events for adults, and he jumped at the opportunity. His motto is, in a way, Willy Wonka's the chocolate, the Mad Hatter is the pub crawls. So if you're new to town in the Space Coast area, Gary at MadHatterPromotions.com is certainly a good person to talk to figure out what to do when you don't want to do when you don't know what to do on a weekend or a weeknight. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Gary.
How you all doing? Yeah, this is Gary.
Great, Gary. How about you?
I love that Willy Wonka comparison. My friend John Leach is a musician and DJ, quite popular, and is associated with Brevard Live magazine. And I just love that quote from the magazine, so I try to recycle that quote as often as I can, too. An artist friend of mine came up with the definition for funtrepreneur, too, but it's a little difficult to say.
It is. So, Gary, why don't you tell us what your business does?
Basically, I provide exciting social read party opportunities for adults over 21. Of course, if you let your imagination run free, that could encompass an awful lot of different things. But I prefer to keep things simple. I do pub crawls, and they're virtually, for the most part, and they're virtually all themed as well. So occasionally I'll do occasional weekend getaway. If a well-known performer comes to town, like a year ago we went to see the Rolling Stones, we'll do a road trip. And there's a couple of weekend getaways, too, that I like to do. But it's more and more it's the pub crawls, and predominantly themed pub crawls here in this area. They're relatively easy to set up, and if they're popular, and it's they're low risk for me. So that's definitely a help.
Yeah. So, well, what is a pub crawl?
A pub crawl is basically a party in motion. You pick an area that's within relatively easy walking distance, where you have about at least 3 or more different venues, bars, restaurants, combinations thereof, within easy walking distance. And then you meet at one of those stops, and people, members of our group, will hang out there at that one stop there for about an hour. Then we pull up stakes and move bar to bar throughout the evening. Although we have done this before in the afternoon, it's usually an evening activity. Now, we did one this past Saturday that was on by bicycle up in the port area. We attached a fundraising effort to that for homeless veterans. There's lots of bars and restaurants up in the Cocoa Beach and Cape Canaveral area, but they're for the most part spread out. I do most of my foot-borne pub crawls in Cocoa Village, and in downtown Melbourne, and in Cocoa Beach. More and more of them in downtown Melbourne. That area is just exploding.
Yeah, I've heard about that. So why? So these people, you go to the pub crawl, and what are people looking for when they're coming to a pub crawl? Like, what's their primary benefit they're seeking? Because obviously they can go on there, they can go to any bar any time. So why do they choose to use the pub crawl construct?
The pub crawl, I guess it would be overly simplified to say, well, they're just going out for, having a good time and having some fun. It's the expanded social dimension of it. It's basically a party on the move. Now, you can go to a party at a fixed location, and some people tend to be a little cliquish. You'll see one little group here, one little group there. The nice thing about pub crawls is that every time the group packs up and moves to the next venue, the group remixes. So it actually gives you more opportunities to socialize and to meet new people at the different stops. The decorations are different. The layout of the different bars are different. I don't know. It's kind of like a game of Scrabble, where you get all of the letters and then you pop the board, and at the next stop, right, all the letters are rearranged. So that's really the benefit of pub crawls. Sometimes they're referred to as bar hops.
So all right. So you came up with this idea, or did you learn about it from somewhere else? I mean, what caused you specifically to go, you know what, I want to put these things together. I want to bring people together and take them around town.
Yeah, the concept of pub crawls has been around, I guess, since clusters of bars have been together. It goes back, I guess, decades, if not a century or more. I'm sure people in villages everywhere have probably done this on and it continues to this day on an informal level, where you get maybe a small group of people just wander up and down the street and explore the different bars. As structured events, I guess it's just within the past few decades that you'll see that happen, and they're usually singular or one-off kind of things, or just annual events, maybe associated with a particular charity, or maybe a college reunion or something like that. FIT does an annual one each fall. There's also different theme ones. You can go on to SantaCon. I think it's .net, but I'm not sure. And there's a list of Santa-related pub crawls all over the country. But most of these things are either one-offs or specifically charity events, or they're just annual events. Whereas what I do is in a more predictable fashion. I can't really say I copied the one in Orlando, pubcrawls.com. They operate a little differently than I do. I use a ticketed format that gives people a price break at the different stops, but it's not obligatory to participate, and people can share the tickets. They have a somewhat different business model in downtown Orlando, but I got to put a plug in for those guys. They have been very open to me and communicative and encouraging for what I do. Also, they operate in the central downtown area in Orlando, whereas I'm sort of fragmented over here in Brevard County. I operate primarily in three areas: Cocoa Beach, Cocoa Village, and downtown Melbourne, and to a lesser degree out at the port, whereas they are, like I said, basically all focused in just one geographical area.
Well, you mentioned that Orlando pub crawls is kind of helpful. I mean, a lot of small business owners, they're often afraid of communicating with their competition. Like, they're like, I don't want to talk to them. I need to, get business that they want to get. And I think sometimes it's good to talk to people or your competition, because the market's big. Often, and you can learn some stuff. So, would you advise people in any particular industry to reach out to some of their competition?
Oh, heck yes. As a matter of fact, there are associations of different, I guess, realtor associations, American Medical Association. All of that are designed to facilitate the growth of the mutual benefits of banding together and sharing information so that they'd all win. I'm not sure I'm going to see an association of pub crawl hosts anytime soon.
Right.
But I'd be all for that. So yes, I have no problem. I have no shyness at all reaching out to anybody, even like a related business, somebody like, say, that operates, like a bus or something, a bus service, transportation service, travel agents and stuff, this sort of thing. And then it didn't even occur to me to hesitate to reach out to, his name is David Jordan of the OrlandoPubCrawl.com. I figured that what's the worst thing that can happen? He just says no.
Yeah, that's certainly true, and I think that's one thing that I've noticed about you is you are willing to go out there and shake hands, so to speak, with everyone. And I think a lot of small business owners would do better if they did do that sometimes. And obviously, there are those who do participate in the associations, and the Chamber of Commerce is a kind of a way to do that. I mean, what's your experience with the Chambers of Commerce, and which ones are you a part of?
I'm a member of the Cocoa Beach Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I've been a member for many years. I can't really say that I can't really quantify or give you metrics as to the benefits. I just know that it benefits me. I've gotten a lot of wonderful advice from from I guess Cheryl Clark, the membership director, and various other associations that I meet as well. Now, sometimes some of them my events, but it's usually through them to other connections at the chamber functions. Not just people that work for the chamber, but the chamber events that they host. Other businessmen, what do they call them? Partners. There's
partners.
Chamber partners. Yeah, chamber partners is the general reference terminology. And through them, I've made connections. Like yourself, for instance. I'm pretty sure I met you through a chamber function at this point.
That's true. That's true. We did meet. We did meet through that. What about you're down in downtown Melbourne. I mean, have you thought about whether or not you should be a member of that chamber as well, or does the Cocoa Beach Chamber cover that? Or
I have been a member of the Melbourne Chamber, and I would consider it again. Part of the problem is geography. It's distance, and at least that was the case in the past when I had a regular job in the other direction. But their office closes at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm currently between regular jobs, so but then it may be to my advantage to reestablish that membership. So I will consider it.
Well, you mentioned
it's a similar function.
Well, you mentioned you're in between jobs. So what did you do before you decided to do this?
I was an electronics technician for 30 years at the Kennedy Space Center. It was a wonderful career, and then that was till 2008, and between there and for an additional 6 years, I was at the 2004. On the Navy side, basically doing something similar. But I had a different, a broader range of skill sets that I picked up on the Navy side. So I was part of the submarine missile test program out there, and that was a wonderful experience. And I got to be honest with you, if that door opens up again, I won't hesitate to walk through it. But but basically, yes. Which you would not think that somebody who does that would end up doing something so intensely social as hosting pub crawls and other events. Transition in my personality took place gradually over many years. I've been involved with local singles activity clubs like Trailblazers and other social organizations like the Hash House Harriers. If you don't know what the Hash House Harriers, your best bet is just to Google that, Hash House Harriers.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with drugs. It's just a silly-ass game, and it's great social networking, too. That process, I've done part-time hosting little things, little meetups, little get-togethers for a period of many years, and it was only in the past a few years that I decided to jack this thing up to a higher level.
So because you did what a lot of small business owners do, is you start off part-time and then you move into full-time. So if you were able to speak to a group of people who had just joined the Chamber of Commerce and they all were part-timers and they were thinking about going full-time, what kind of advice would you offer them?
The SCORE program has been very helpful. They're not. They have a connection with the chamber, but they're not. They're a separate organization. It's a volunteer organization for the most part of retired business people or semi-retired business people that make their talents and advice and experience available to you free. But it's important to realize that if you're going to go into business for yourself on any level, you have to have you're going in with both feet, and you need to develop a business business plan. There's licensing, state taxes, a whole range of things that you have to be prepared to embrace. Otherwise, even on a part-time level, a lot of that is required. Just be prepared if you want to make a formal business out of your current hobby. That this is what this is the degree of commitment you're going to be facing.
Yeah, now part of that was obviously we met because of the marketing part of the equation is now that you've been doing it a while, do you appreciate the challenge of marketing and the resources that you need to put together to make your marketing efforts successful?
Very much so. Very much so.
And I think what you and I discussed, at some point was, once you start tracking different things, you can start better tailoring where you need to spend money and where the money being spent doesn't justify like the return. So can you give me kind of an example of that?
Yes. Well, I think I'm happy with the return, say, on my newsletter. I only pay $20 a month for the newsletter.
Right.
Social media is important as well. Getting your face out there, setting up a personal schedule that gets you visible at both chamber functions and a lot of other public functions as well. In my case, I found that some printed material works. I do have posters that end up in the bars and restaurants, and I get quite a few responses when I actually ask them, "How did you hear about this?" They saw the poster, or they heard it from so and so. But social media is basically my tool of preference for getting the word out for my events, and primarily Facebook. But that in itself is a complicated lake to swim in, and it's important that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, now because you bring up an important point, because a lot of small businesses will create a business page, right? But then what I think you found is sometimes you get better response on your personal page.
That seems to be correct, and when I look back and see how all of that evolved, I make different choices. Had I been more knowledgeable of Facebook when I got into it, things might have turned out a little differently, or then they might not have. I just don't know. I just know that as far as maybe it has something to do with the nature of Facebook itself, but I have a Facebook business page and a certain number of followers on there, a few hundred. And then on my personal page, Gary Mad Hatter Haas, I have over 3,100 followers. So it's partly, I guess, how you set it up to begin with, and it's in part the nature of Facebook itself, and then the nature of, I guess, people's personalities as to how they interact with Facebook. Or like I said, it isn't simple.
Yeah, I mean it's important because obviously I'm a Facebook guy, you're a Facebook guy, but there are a lot of people like my girlfriend who will go on Facebook twice a year for the most part. That's pretty much that. And so there's that part of the market that doesn't necessarily, you go on Facebook. Some people go on Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter to some extent, but it's that connection that certain people want to have with your business. Now, to those people who open your newsletter, for example, do you find a high correlation between the people who open your newsletter and the people who are on Facebook? Is there a lot of cross-sharing? Or
there is some, but I don't have metrics on that. I just know that I have been told that a 20% open rate of newsletters is considered good. Of course, from my selfish perspective, I'd like to see it more like 95%.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't know.
We would all like that.
I don't know if anybody has that kind of open rate. And then attached to that, I guess, is a click-through rate for more information. So,
one of the things you can do, is if you're interested in doing that, is you segment your email list into people who have been on a pub crawl of yours and people who haven't. And then what you'll see is you'll have a higher open rate for your clients. I mean, I do the same thing for my clients. I have a client every newsletter that goes out, I have a client version and I have a prospect version. And there's a little bit difference between each one of them. One is, the prospects I'm trying to, move them to become clients. But you see the open rate and the click-through rate is much higher on that segment that's your current clients. And so it helps you get more true numbers on what you're doing on the, the prospect side of the house.
I will give that some thought. I will also mention that I promote on social media, encourage people to go to my website and sign up for the newsletter. It goes out every Monday. I use Constant Contact. Something I also picked up, I guess, both through the Chamber and through SCORE. They both sort of interacted with each other on that. And another thing that I do is with my Facebook friends, there's little announcements. Every morning I do this. I go and look under events, and there's a list of the current people who are having birthdays on Facebook. And sometimes it's a few, and sometimes it's a dozen or more. It varies considerably. But I have I try not to make it look like a form letter, but I have on Notepad. I have a ahoy so-and-so, happy birthday, and I hope you're following me, and yada, yada, yada. And so I'll copy and paste that, and headline it with their name in each person's birthday announcement, which ends up on their webpage or their Facebook page. And over the period of a year, I do this religiously, over a period of a year, you've swung through the entire calendar. You said happy birthday with a link to your website to each and every one of them without having to actually sit down and go through all of them randomly,
Well, I just got one last week from you. I just got one last week. Now, have you thought about...
Happy birthday, Brad.
Have you thought about... Yeah. Now, have you thought about doing something along the lines of, hey, happy birthday, here's one free ticket to my next pub crawl?
No, I did not give any thought to that, and apparently maybe I should.
It might be worth exploring, because sometimes people will go. It's like giving one free ticket away to a baseball game or something. People typically aren't going to go to the game by themselves, and they're going to buy a ticket. So it might be a relatively low cost, or test it out, a 50% off a pub crawl ticket or something like that, and see. It's worth considering, I think, and I just thought of that as you were talking to me.
Yes, or at the very least, offer them maybe a Krampus mug or a koozie or something like that. Well, actually, I do in fact do that now. You can, as soon as you sign up, you get the free koozie, but you got to show up at the event in order to see. But I'll give some thought to the free ticket, the free pub crawl ticket idea. I just said quite frequently I don't personally know all of the people that show up at the pub crawls, or whether they, so I could be end up offering tickets, free tickets to people that have actually already attended the pub crawls before. I'd have to.
But like on my birthday, the only reason I mentioned it is because my birthday was last week, and the restaurants I frequent, the places I go to, they all send me an email saying, hey, here's a free, buy a meal, here's a free Rice Krispie treat, or here's a free drink, or something along those lines. So you don't have to give away the whole farm, but it's getting you in there so that they're going to end up spending more money and something along those lines. So,
and
you don't have to give everything away for free.
Yeah, and hopefully become a repeat customer. Yeah. So I will give that some thought.
Yeah, because that's part of it. Is the more people you can get into the pub crawl scene and that want to go do it every month, the better off. And that brings up another thing: is have you started a Facebook group for people who've been on your pub crawl? Not a page, but a group. No, I have not done that yet. Yeah,
and I do know how they function.
What you do is, is there people who've been on your pub crawl, and and it allows them to share some information, and also allows you to communicate with that group of customers. So your biggest group is your the Mad Hatter page, so to speak, and your own private stuff. but the people who've been on the pub crawl, sometimes, they like having that membership has its privileges sort of thing where, you're giving some insight or offering them something special that people may not be able to get somewhere else, and allow some cross sharing.
Yeah, that would probably be something that's relatively easy to set up, although I definitely would have to monitor it in case somebody developed some degree of, shall we say, confusion over something. I'd have to be on top of it to make sure that stayed under control. But that is a very good idea. Yes, I will look into that.
So, all right. So, let me ask this. So, if you weren't already doing this business, would you get into it today? Would you start all over again?
Yeah. Probably. I might have hesitated or flinched had I known how much work it was going to be on a professional level. But I definitely would be hosting something, at least part-time, at least occasionally. I enjoyed doing it. Part of my motivation for doing it is the joy I get out of watching people interact and create new relationships. I remember several years ago at one of my earlier pirate costume bashes. It was one that when we were still out at the Cocoa Beach Pier. A few weeks after that event, I was eating a dinner in a restaurant in Satellite Beach, and this young couple came over and said, "Are you the guy that hosted that pirate party?" I said, "Yes, I am." And they proceeded to thank me profusely for hosting that event because they met there at that event, became a couple, and have been dating ever since. And so I see that not only as a validation of the effort, but I see that also as a responsibility as well. So that basically feeds into my motivational stream for doing stuff like this, that I'm helping create social opportunities that for people that might not otherwise, be able to or have the desire to or feel comfortable at attending some of the other stuff that goes on.
Well, so maybe what you can do then is start Mad Hatter matchmaking as a secondary business.
Once in a while, I'll get an inquiry in that direction, but I'll leave that to professionals like Michelle Valentine over in Orlando, or to the Match.com, stuff like that. I can see how things, for me not having the psychology degree necessary to make that work, I can see how things could go terribly wrong. I could gain some customers and I could lose some customers too.
Yeah.
So that's funny.
Yeah. So, all right. So one of the things is, because you're a business that has to partner with other businesses out there. I mean, I think sometimes some people go out alone, but your business is very much dependent on having venues to take people into. So, what advice would you give? What advice would you give a business that needs partners, so to speak, to make themselves successful?
First and foremost, be humble. Be proud that you have something to offer, but don't hold your nose in the air. That would be number one. And number two, right on its heels, is you got to be persistent. A lot of businesses have a lot on their plate to deal with, and that's what I've learned by some of the bigger restaurant, bar complexes. The people that run those things are under a lot of pressure all the time to make things happen, and you walking cold in the door or sending them a call or an email is just one of 1,000 contacts that they'll get in any particular day. And if they return your call or respond quickly, consider yourself lucky. I consider the technique, I call it polite persistence. Sometimes I get lucky, and within a phone call or an email or two, I get a response. And then other times it could take half a dozen or more attempts, maybe spread out over a period of a few weeks. there are a few venues out there that have informally, verbally said, yes, we'd like to be involved, and yet never responded to my emails or calls or any of that.
Right.
So you just, there is a certain percentage that will not ever, return your call or reach back to you. But you can't allow yourself to be discouraged just because of a very slow response rate based on who you're reaching out to. Now, some businesses are a little different. Some businesses are more laid back and relaxed, and they may respond quicker. But I understand and I accept the nature of the businesses that I tend to reach out to, and know they're very busy people. Sometimes they're very haggard people, and it could take a while. It could take several attempts to get a response, and that I'm used to. I wouldn't say used to it. I've just grown to accept it as simply part of the process at this point. So that's maybe that's the reason why there are a few other people out there basically doing the same thing that I do.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I think that's the important point. Is most small businesses are, sometimes aren't aware completely of how long that sales process is. From the start that first contact until you ultimately have a deal. Yes,
I have been told that some businesses could take upwards of 2 or 3 years to gain enough momentum to be self-sustaining, and I hope I can stick with this long enough to be able to to have it self-sustaining. So it kind of is self-sustaining at this point. It's just not paying my bills yet. So, but it is, and it's growing. I'm up to 4,000 subscribers for my Constant Contact newsletter. I've been gaining about 50 to 100 a month, I guess, now for the past few months. So it's really growing. But my goal, part of my challenge, is to convert those subscribers into event attendees.
Yes, yeah, and that will always be the challenge, and the birthday opportunity, like we mentioned earlier, is always an opportunity to, hey, let me try to convert somebody, and the more you segment your list and have those people that are customers, you can better track that. So, but I think I'm running out of time here, Gary, and I know you didn't think we would be able to talk that long, but. We definitely were able to do that, and I appreciate you coming on the program. And is there anything else you want to let people know about upcoming pub crawl and where to go to find out more information?
First of all, let me mention that it's not just about the party scene. Every social opportunity, whether it's somebody, like a family birthday, an outing, or whatever, including our pub crawls, is another networking opportunity. Make yourself get up if you're feeling a little lethargic. Come out to one of our pub crawls. You don't actually, if you're a lightweight or a teetotaler, you don't even have to buy a ticket. Just tag along. Or if you're lightweight, you can split a ticket with somebody. But look at these social opportunities as an opportunity to make new friends. Maybe you're trying to sell your car, find another job. There's the whole spectrum of agendas is valid to pursue at any social opportunity, including the pub crawls. As far as my website is madhatcherpromotions.com, and my next pub crawl will be in downtown Melbourne, and on Friday, December 2, and the theme will be Krampus. And we could talk for another 15 minutes about KRANCUS. But your best bet is to just Google him. He's an alternative character of historical origin to Santa Claus. And so we just, the guy that does my website, Jamie Ward of Digidonkey, suggested that a few years back, and it's proven to be a hit. The one we did last year, I had over 70 people attend, so that was it's quite a hoot and a holler, yes.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the program here, Gary. I've got I talked to you a little bit too much, so I'm not going to have time to get to all my questions that were being asked. But I'll field one question, and then which is fine because we enjoy talking to people, and this is our first program, and I think we did pretty well on the time thing. So I wish you luck and have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much, and you do likewise. And I very much enjoy the radio format. And if I see any other opportunities to take advantage of that, I will do so in a blink. I think it's a wonderful experience, and it's a good experience for a business owner to be able, if they're kind of shy, a little slow in talking about their business, to help gain some experience in public speaking. That's definitely a plus.
Yes.
It's something. It's basically like an expanded elevator pitch, which everybody should have developed.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like you're stuck in an elevator for 20 or 30 minutes. So.
Oh yeah, if it breaks, then you're either going to they're either guaranteed to get a customer, or they're going to be climbing the wall.
Exactly. All right. Well, thanks.
Sure. Have a great holiday weekend.
Yeah, you too. Okay, so now I'm going to move into the question portion. There were a lot more questions to be asked, but we're running out of time, so I'm just going to focus on one that was sent to me, which is, how much money should I allocate toward my small business for marketing? And this is a question I get asked a lot, and it's very hard when you're starting out to go, how much money do I need to spend here? I mean, and what we found is over time is you have to look at what your revenue target is going to be and then, budget accordingly. So if you're a business that wants $100,000 in revenue, and let's say you have nothing in revenue yet, you need to be prepared to spend between $10,000 and $15,000 in marketing, either in time or money, to get a revenue stream that equals that amount. So typically, they take your revenue, your targeted revenue, and take 10 to 15% of that, and that's how much you have to really budget. Now, for a startup business, a lot of times they don't have any money, and I come across that all the time. And I say at a minimum, you need to have about $500 a month invested toward marketing. You need to be prepared to fund that business. And you might think, well, I don't need to do that. Well, you do, because you're going to have to maybe join a chamber or two. Then you have to go to events. You're going to need business cards. You're going to need brochures. You're going to need to advertise in some particular medium. You're going to need to go network. You're going to need to do promotion sharing with different venues, perhaps like Gary has. So you really need to go in there with saying, I need to have at least $6,000 allocated toward marketing in my first year. And if you can do that, you're in a much better position, and you won't be like some clients that I've met over the years where they just weren't prepared for that. And they end up folding the business because they don't have the revenue in there to support it, nor do they have the money set aside, ahead of time. And I know a couple of business owners who have part-time jobs to fund their marketing as they're moving into the full-time venue. So there's really a lot of different things that you can do to make sure you have that money, but go in there with the blinders off, so to speak, and know that you're going to have to spend time and money. Obviously, the more time you have, you can kind of allocate that as part of your marketing budget, because if you had to pay somebody, you would, and you'll typically see business development people or sales associates who are kind of doing the marketing part, but they're getting paid ultimately a salary and commission, and you don't have that as a startup business. So that's really my take on that particular question. We don't have time to get to the other ones, so I'm just going to end that here. We should be on the air every week, and if you're becoming a interviewee on the program, send me an email at brad@justsmallbiz, that's BIZ.com. You can also call 321-613-8476, and we'll go from there. So with that, I'm going to say good afternoon or good evening, and for those of you who are commuting home, enjoy the traffic, and happy Thanksgiving.